Hey guys, welcome back to my PHI Games History and Reviews. Today, we will talk about the 1919 Omaha Riot. If you're a regular viewer on this channel, you will know that I've done this in the past, but now I've learned a whole bunch of whole bunch of new facts about this riot and stuff. And also, I wanted to kind of, I guess, update it to like kind of how I make my videos now, because back then it was just bad quality, and so I found a way to make a good quality stuff like that. So I'm doing it with a lot of my old history videos to try to get them to try to get them to look good. So this 1919 Omaha riot, this is actually mostly forgotten in history, mostly because it's like the city of Omaha pretty much has no memorials for any of this that just happened. Well, of what happened that day. Um, and if you actually go to an average person in the city in Omaha and ask him about this riot, most likely that guy have no idea what you're talking about. So that's how much forgotten Omaha's past has been. Um, so mostly this video is just kind of I guess kind of bring everything to light, kind of thing about Omaha's pretty violent past. But yeah, and also if you do look up the 1919 Omaha riot on YouTube, there's only 5 videos about it, and my old one was on the 5. This is video number 6. Um, and also so basically the 1919 Omaha riot was part of a whole bunch of riots happening all across the country called the Red Summer, which happened in the summer of 1919. And if you look up the Red Summer, this is one of the first photos that pop up. This is from Omaha on September 28th, 1919. So what's exactly happening? Let's go back a few years. In 1919, Archduke Ferdinand and his wife were killed, and World War I starts. In 1917, the U.S. finally gets involved after the Zimmerman Note, which basically, in a nutshell, was Germany trying to get the U.S. from entering the war by sending a note to Mexico saying, "Invade them and we will help you," to try to keep them distracted. But that got intercepted by the Allies and sent straight to Wilson's desk, and we declared war. So when the war started, a lot of African Americans and white people joined the service. And the African Americans found out they're being treated equally as white people. And they liked it. There's no segregation, there's no nothing. Everyone and so when they came back from the war, they were treated as heroes for just a while, and then things went back to normal. And so, soon after this happened, a lot of riots started to break out around the country. Like most notably, Chicago is probably the most famous one, and then it's probably Omaha. But a whole bunch of places. This was like D.C., Atlanta, L.A. I don't know, basically every major city in the U.S. And that so in 1919, after these started to happen, one of the Omaha newspapers actually printed uh, that that any day now there might be a race riot in Omaha. So by 1919, Omaha was a fairly large city. Um, and it was rapidly growing. It was the biggest city. Well, well, it was one of the last major cities west of the Missouri, before you hit the plains. But it was the first one you hit. Well, Omaha. This picture looks a pretty good picture, but actually, none of these buildings that you see here. Most of these the buildings that you see right now are gone. yeah, and so that's kind of sad because Omaha actually had a lot of cool buildings back then. So yeah, most of these buildings are gone. Um, so basically, so in 1919, uh, the city of Omaha was under mob rule, and by this point in time, it has gotten the nickname Wicked Omaha, which is not the best nickname for a city. So a lot of people rather like die than go to Omaha. It was like the Chicago of 1919. It had one of the highest crime rates. It was the worst crime rate city in the U.S. And and the reason why it was mostly mob rule, but also throughout the the 20s and 30s and stuff, a lot of mob bosses would meet here in Omaha. So all the mob bosses would meet in Omaha because it's centrally located. So so this had a lot of mob influence, and and so that kind of dragged the city down. But But one of the positive things about Omaha was it had the stockyards. The Omaha stockyards, well, would later become the biggest stockyards in the world, passing Chicago. And so Omaha needed workers for the stockyards, and it was after the Civil War, and a lot of African Americans were still trying to find work and stuff, and um and Omaha kind of put ads out saying, "Come to Omaha, we have a lot of job openings and stuff." And so the African Americans came to Omaha. Well, a lot of African Americans from the South came to Omaha and started I guess, a kind of a settlement on the northern side of the city, now called North Omaha. And soon a actual newspaper started to be printed called the Star, which is, well, as I know right now, is still in print today. And so the African Americans, well, they got higher wages here, but it was only by a couple cents. But back then, that meant a lot. But also, in 1919, it was a election year for mayor, and this guy named Mayor Smith won. Mayor Smith, uh, he was not under the mob influence, which was a problem to the head of the mob here in Omaha. His name was Thomas Dennison, I think, but nicknamed the Silver Fox. That's how we call him today. And so he needed a plan to get this guy out of office, and he came up with one. He thought maybe we can go frame this African American named Will Brown and frame him that he harassed a white woman. And that's what they did. And they actually had a whole story and everything, that him and her and her friend were walking. Will Brown came, knocked out the boy she was with, and then dragged her behind a bush. And yeah, that's we'll end there. That did not happen. So quickly, Will Brown was apprehended and taken to the Douglas County Courthouse / Omaha City Hall / Omaha Courthouse. Yeah, it's basically the whole central form of government in the city. It still is today. And so, this building is still here, but on the right wing they added a whole bunch of stuff on. It's kind of cool. So so yeah, so then the mob got an actual like riot, like mob of people started kind of thing, and they say about 1,000 to it's either 1,000 to 2,000, 1,000 to 10,000 people showed up. They are not social distancing, guys. But so so then this whole mob kind of started to come out, kind of gather around the courthouse / city hall, but a whole bunch of the mob actually broke off and started raiding local gas stations and gun stores and breaking into them at the gas stations stealing gas, and the gun stores stealing guns. While back at the courthouse, things weren't getting much better. A fire was started, and people were starting to break their way inside. The cops couldn't get any control. I said a fire started, and I think from this view, that's supposed to be one of the few actual fire trucks at the scene. And I say one of the few fire trucks at the scene because most of the fire trucks actually disabled during the riot. Because what happened was, once they all got there, they started, pumping water in, and people quickly started to cut the hoses on the fire hose, so they couldn't put the fire out. A lot of people think, a lot of Omaha historians think that those are actually people who are part of the mob, who were trying to keep the fire going. The fire was started in the records room of the Omaha City Hall, which which a lot of people think that people from the mob started, because if they burned down the records room, all the contracts and stuff made by the city of Omaha would be destroyed, and Omaha would be unable to govern the city of Omaha. Yeah, that's a lot. So who is all inside the building? It was relatively still like it. It was more an afternoon, evening kind of thing, and so there's still people inside. One of the people was the judge, the mayor, and some other people, and of course Will Brown. And so the mob, the mob of people was demanding, the rioters was demanding to have Will Brown sent to them. The scared judge and stuff sent this note down, and this is the note. Sorry, I'm just reading it. So yeah. So they sent this note down, and the mob quickly stormed City Hall. They broke into the building, started destroying everything in sight, setting stuff on fire. Here's some of the aftermath right here. And they started setting things on fire, and surprisingly, this is my favorite part of the story, is when the Mayor Smith tried to actually stop the mob from entering the building. He was trying. He ordered everyone to move to the roof, even Will Brown, and so he stayed downstairs, trying to hold off the mob. The rioters, and he was taken, and so he was later beat up, captured, and dragged outside. The rioters made it to the roof, and grabbed Will Brown, dragged him downstairs, and left the other people alone, because they were not, I guess, much of a threat, and they wouldn't do anything to resist them, unlike the mayor. And so both the mayor and Will Brown taken outside to separate lampposts where nooses hung. The mayor was going to be hanged first, but right before they hanged him, a police detective somehow made it through the crowd, went up and cut the rope of the mayor's noose, and both the mayor, who was beat up and in pain, they somehow managed to get away and got into a police car, and he was quickly taken to the hospital with critical injuries. But it was too late for Will Brown. The detective couldn't get to him in time, and by the time that he could, the place was already kind of flooded with people, and what they did, they hung him, they shot him, and then they burned him. And yeah. So they hung him and shot him and burned him. and a Omaha World Herald photographer captured this photo, which is actually a very, very famous photo in American history. So, what happened to the mayor? The mayor would be okay. He would go on to live until 1930, and he would serve out the rest of his term. Um, Also, Will Brown, he died. It's kind of obvious at this point. You can tell by the photo. But after he died, burned him, they got the rest of his body, tied it onto a car, and pretty much dragged his body throughout the streets of Omaha. And then they brought him back to the courthouse, where they actually cut pieces off of him and sold them. And the next day, some guy got a hold of the rope that they used to hang him and cut it into pieces and sold it for 10 cents each. Yeah. Um. So then, and then Will Brown was buried in an unmarked grave. Um. So then, I know this isn't a very accurate picture. I couldn't really find a picture at the Omaha City Jail, Douglas County Jail, or whatever. This is the only thing I could find. But the rioters started moving towards the county jail, and the jailer actually let all the criminals loose, and then he ran away. And so after that, the rioters pretty much went home. After that, and yeah, so that was the end of the 1919 Omaha riot. Um, and so and well, also you might know this guy. His name is Henry Fonda. He saw the whole thing happen when he was 11 years old from from a window at his dad's shop, like apartment, something like that. And he saw the whole thing happen when he was only 11 years old. This memory would haunt him for the rest of his life. He would talk about it off on in interviews, and he would even make a movie based off of it. Uh, so the city of Omaha was put under martial law for 2 days. The the U.S. Army was actually called into Omaha to keep the peace because there's other rumors that stuff might happen. And so yeah, so I said they're there for 2 days. This was taken on Farnham Street. This picture was. I don't know what number street it was, but I know it was taken on Farnham somewhere. Um, and so for the African American community was pretty shaken. And just in the next night alone, so Omaha has two train stations. You have Burlington Station. At the time, you have Burlington and Omaha Union Station. Uh, Omaha Union Station would be knocked down and rebuilt, and now it's known as the Durham Museum. A Burlington Station, as of right now, is actually where Channel 7 News broadcasts is from. So fun fact. So just from Burlington Station alone, over 2,000 African Americans left the city of Omaha by train in the next day, about the next 24 hours, because there's rumors that something big was going to happen, which never did. Um, so yeah, and hundreds of thousands of more also left the city through other ways, like from Union Station, and just leaving the city. Uh, and yeah. So Will Brown, I said he's buried in an unmarked grave. His grave would later get a grave marker in 2008 by a Henry Fonda fan who who actually was watching an interview with Henry Fonda, and he mentioned the 1919 Omaha riot, and he looked into it and found out Will Brown didn't have a grave marker, and so he donated tombstone to the city of Omaha to put a grave marker in. And this guy has never, pretty much up to this point, has pretty much never heard of Omaha, and has never been there. He had no ties to the city whatsoever. But he donated a grave marker to Bill Brown, which is still there today. As you can see, this is near 10. This is the only picture I can find of the grave marker. But and so last year was the 100th anniversary of the Omaha Riot. I don't really know if the city of Omaha did anything. I think they might have done some stuff, but I don't know exactly what to honor Will Brown. But yeah, so if you go to Omaha today, well, so the Silver Fox would be in power, while the mob would be in power until the early 40s when World War II started. Then a whole bunch of police reforms went in, stuff like that, and also the opening of a bomb factory came. A whole bunch of people came back to Omaha, and Omaha became a nice, I guess, kind of clean city. The city of Omaha would not see no riot until 1969, and then the next riot that would happen would be in 2020. But this was the last riot where someone was lynched in the city of Omaha. The one before that was in the 1880s, 1890s, where they practically did the exact same thing. So yeah. So if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any comments, questions, answers to the questions being asked, or any complaints, just put down in the comments below. And but yeah, so just leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.